A new arrival. The cerulean skies of Zephyria stretched endlessly above as Dr. Elara Vance stepped off the interstellar transport. The alien sun cast a warm, purple-tinged light across the bustling spaceport, its rays refracting through the planet's unique atmosphere. Elara took a deep breath, her lungs filling with the slightly sweet air of her new home. As the only human assigned to the Galactic Science Corps' Xenobiology Division on Zephyria, Elara knew she was in for a challenge. The planet was home to dozens of sentient species, each more fascinating than the last. But it wasn't just the intelligent life forms that interested her. It was the complex ecosystems, the bizarre flora and fauna that existed nowhere else in the known universe. Elara made her way through the crowded spaceport, her eyes wide as she took in the dizzying array of alien life forms. Tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin brushed past squat, furry creatures chattering in high-pitched tones. Hovering transport pods zipped overhead, weaving between the towering structures of the spaceport. As she neared the exit, a commotion caught her attention. A group of aliens had formed a wide circle around something, their voices raised in a cacophony of alarm and fear. Curiosity piqued, Elara pushed her way forward, her heart racing with excitement at the prospect of encountering something new. What she saw took her breath away. In the center of the circle stood a being unlike any Elara had ever seen. It was roughly humanoid in shape, but its skin shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, shifting colors like oil on water. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in delicate, multi-jointed fingers. But it wasn't the alien itself that had caused the uproar. It was the creature at its side. The beast was massive, easily the size of an earth tiger, but any resemblance to terrestrial life ended there. Its body was covered in overlapping plates that seemed to be made of living crystal, refracting light in dazzling patterns. 6 legs, jointed like those of an insect, supported its bulk. But it was the creature's head that truly captured Elara's attention. A crown of writhing tentacles surrounded a single giant eye that swiveled independently, taking in its surroundings with unnerving intelligence. The crowd of aliens pressed back, their fear palpable. Elara heard snatches of conversation in the universal trade language. "It's a voidborn. How did it get here? Someone call security." The iridescent alien looked around, distress evident in its body language. It spoke, its voice a melodious trill that somehow conveyed desperation even through the language barrier. The creature at its side, the voidborn, pressed closer to its companion, its eye narrowing as it regarded the hostile crowd. Elara felt a surge of empathy. Whatever this pair was, they were clearly outcasts, feared and misunderstood. Without fully understanding why, she found herself stepping forward, her hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Wait," she called out, her translator converting her words into the trade language. "Let's not do anything hasty." All eyes turned to her, and Elara suddenly felt the weight of her humanity. She was as alien here as the iridescent being and its strange companion. But perhaps that gave her an advantage, a unique perspective unburdened by local prejudices. She approached slowly, keeping her movements calm and deliberate, the voidborn's eye fixed on her, its tentacles writhing with increased agitation. But Elara didn't falter. She'd faced down charging rhinoceros and curious great white sharks in her fieldwork on Earth. She wasn't about to be intimidated now. "Hello," she said softly, addressing both the alien and the voidborn. "I'm Dr. Elara Vance. I'm new here, and I'd very much like to understand what's happening." The iridescent alien trilled again, and this time Elara's translator caught enough to understand. "Please, help. Zara. Not dangerous." Elara nodded, realizing that Zara must be the name of the voidborn. She turned to address the crowd. "This being is asking for help. Surely we can offer assistance rather than fear." A ripple of uncertainty passed through the gathered aliens. Elara pressed on, drawing on every ounce of diplomatic skill she'd learned in her xenobiology training. "I propose we give them a chance to explain. Who among you can tell me more about Voidborn?" Why are they feared? An elderly alien, its skin a mottled green, stepped forward. Voidborn are creatures of legend, Dr. Vance. They're said to be the offspring of the cosmos itself, born in the spaces between stars. Our histories speak of them as harbingers of chaos, with the power. And has this Voidborn reshaped reality? Ilara asked, keeping her voice calm and reasonable. Has it brought chaos? The crowd murmured, and Ilara saw uncertainty replace fear in many alien eyes. She turned back to the iridescent being and its companion. May I? She asked, extending her hand slowly toward Zora. The alien trilled an affirmative, though anxiety was clear in its stance. Zara, the Voidborn, regarded Ilara with that unblinking eye. As her hand approached, the creature's tentacles reached out, gently wrapping around her fingers. A gasp went up from the crowd, but Ilara hardly noticed. The moment Zara touched her, she felt something. Not the chaos or destruction the story spoke of, but a vast, cosmic awareness. Images flashed through her mind, the birth of stars, the dance of galaxies, the intricate web of space-time itself. When the contact broke, Ilara found herself breathless, her mind reeling from the experience. She turned to the crowd, a smile of wonder on her face. "There's no danger here," she announced. "Only an opportunity to learn, to understand something truly extraordinary." The tension in the spaceport began to dissipate. Curiosity replaced fear as aliens began to whisper among themselves, reevaluating their initial reactions. Ilara turned back to the iridescent alien and Zora. "I think," she said, her eyes shining with excitement, "that we have a lot to talk about. Would you be willing to tell me your story?" As the alien trilled its agreement, and Zora's eye curved in what Ilara somehow knew was a smile, she felt a thrill of excitement. This, she realized, was why she had come to Zephyria. Not just to study the known, but to explore the unknown, to bridge gaps between species, and to unravel the mysteries of the universe. Her adventure, she knew, was just beginning. Unexpected alliance. In the days following her arrival on Zephyria, Dr. Ilara Vance found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Her encounter with the iridescent alien, who she learned was named Lyra, and the Voidborn Zora, had catapulted her into the spotlight of the scientific community. The Galactic Science Corps, initially skeptical of her unorthodox approach, now clamored for her insights. Ilara spent countless hours with Lyra and Zora, learning their story. Lyra, it turned out, was a member of a species called the Lumina, known for their empathic abilities. She had found Zora as a small, frightened creature on a distant moon, abandoned and alone. Despite the legends and fears surrounding Voidborn, Lyra had felt Zora's pain and loneliness and had taken the creature in. "I couldn't leave her," Lyra explained, her melodious voice tinged with emotion. "The stories say Voidborn are born of chaos, but all I felt from Zora was confusion and a desire for connection." Zara, for her part, seemed to have bonded deeply with Lyra. The Voidborn's tentacles often curled gently around Lyra's arms in a gesture that Ilara interpreted as affectionate. Through a combination of Lyra's empathic abilities and Ilara's scientific approach, they were slowly learning to communicate more effectively with Zora. As the days passed, Ilara found herself growing fond of both Lyra and Zora. The Lumina's kindness and the Voidborn's otherworldly perspective fascinated her. She spent long hours in the lab, analyzing data from her interactions with Zora, trying to understand the creature's unique biology and abilities. It was during one of these late-night research sessions that everything changed. Ilara was hunched over a holographic display, examining the intricate patterns in Zora's crystalline plates, when an alarm blared through the research facility. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice echoed through the corridors. "Warning. Anomaly detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. Heart racing, Ilara rushed to the containment area where Lyra and Zora were housed. She found them both agitated, Lyra's skin flickering rapidly through a spectrum of colors, while Zora's eye darted back and forth, its tentacles writhing. "What's happening?" Ilara asked as she entered, already keying in the code to release the containment field. Lyra's voice was strained. "Something's wrong. I can feel it. A disturbance, like reality itself, is being torn." As if in response to Lyra's words, the ground beneath them shuddered. In the distance, Ilara heard the sound of tearing metal and breaking glass. "We need to get out of here," Ilara said, her training kicking in. "Come on, I know a way to the emergency shuttles." But as they reached the corridor, they found their path blocked. A shimmering, translucent barrier hung in the air, distorting the space behind it like a heat haze. As they watched, But as they reached the corridor, they found their path blocked. A shimmering, translucent barrier hung in the air, distorting the space behind it like a heat haze. As they watched, the barrier pulsed, expanding slowly but steadily. "It's a void rift," Lyra gasped, her voice filled with awe and terror. "The stories speak of them. Tears in the fabric of spacetime. If it's not closed, it could consume the entire planet." Ilara's mind raced. Her years of scientific training warred with the impossible sight before her. "How do we close it?" she asked, forcing her voice to remain calm. Lyra shook her head, her iridescent skin pale with fear. "I don't know. The legends say only a Voidborn has the power to mend such tears." But both Lyra and Ilara turned to look at Zora. The Voidborn stood still, its giant eye fixed on the shimmering rift. For a moment, Ilara thought she saw something in that alien gaze. Recognition, perhaps even longing. "Zora," Ilara said softly, kneeling down to meet the creature's eye. "Do you understand what's happening? Can you help us?" Zora's tentacles writhed, and Ilara felt a touch on her mind. Not the vast cosmic awareness she had experienced before, but something more focused, a question. "Why?" Ilara took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "Because this is our home, Zora. Mine, Lyra's, and now yours. If that rift isn't closed, everything here will be destroyed. I know you have no obligation to help us, but I'm asking you, as a friend, to try." For a long moment, Zora was still. Then, slowly, the Voidborn moved forward, approaching the shimmering barrier. Lyra made a soft, distressed sound, but Ilara held out a hand, stopping her from interfering. As Zora neared the rift, its crystalline plates began to glow, pulsing with an otherworldly light. The Voidborn's tentacles reached out, touching the shimmering barrier. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, reality itself seemed to bend. Ilara and Lyra watched in awe as Zora's form began to warp and shift. The Voidborn's body stretched and twisted, seeming to merge with the rift itself. Waves of energy pulsed outward, and Ilara felt a pressure building in her ears, as if the air itself was being compressed. Just when Ilara thought she couldn't bear the pressure any longer, there was a soundless explosion of light. She and Lyra were thrown backward, skidding across the floor of the corridor. When Ilara's vision cleared, she saw that the rift was gone. In its place stood Zora, the Voidborn's crystalline plates glowing softly in the dim emergency lighting. "You did it," Ilara breathed, a smile of relief and pride spreading across her face. "Zora, you saved us all." But their relief was short-lived. The facility's alarms were still blaring, and in the distance, Ilara could hear shouts and the sound of approaching footsteps. "We need to go," Lyra said urgently. "They'll blame Zora for this. They won't understand." Ilara nodded, her mind already racing ahead. "You're right. We can't stay here. But where can we go? The whole planet will be looking for us." Lyra's eyes met Ilara's, a mix of fear and determination in her gaze. "There's a place, a hidden sanctuary where outcasts and misfits find refuge. It's dangerous, and there's no guarantee they'll accept us. But it's our best shot," Ilara finished. She looked at Zora, who was watching them with that unblinking, intelligent eye. "What do you say, Zora? ready for another adventure. The Voidborn's tentacles curled in what Ilara had come to recognize as agreement. With a nod, Ilara led them down the corridor, away from the approaching voices. As they raced through the facility, dodging panicked researchers and security personnel, Ilara's mind whirled. In the span of a few short days, she had gone from a newly arrived xenobiologist to a fugitive, fleeing with an empath and a creature of cosmic power. It wasn't what she had expected when she came to Zephyria, but as the adrenaline coursed through her veins, she realized she wouldn't have it any other way. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever dangers they might face, Ilara knew one thing for certain. With Lyra's empathy, Zora's cosmic power, and her own human ingenuity, they made a formidable team. And together, they just might unravel the mysteries of the universe itself. As they burst out of the facility into the alien night, three fugitives united by circumstance and choice, Ilara felt a thrill of excitement. Their journey was just beginning, and the stars above held endless possibilities. Facing the challenge. The moons of Zephyria cast an eerie, multicolored glow over the landscape as Ilara, Lyra, and Zera made their way through the dense, alien forest. They had been traveling for days, staying off the main roads and avoiding populated areas. Ilara's scientific curiosity was constantly at war with their need for secrecy. Every new plant and creature they encountered fascinated her, but they couldn't afford to linger. "How much further to this sanctuary?" Ilara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Even after days in the wilderness, she was still adjusting to the way sound carried differently in Zephyria's atmosphere. Lyra's iridescent skin shimmered with fatigue as she responded. "Not far now. The entrance is hidden in the Whispering Cliffs, just beyond this forest." Zara, who had been scouting ahead, suddenly returned to the group. The Voidborn's eye was wide, its tentacles writhing in agitation. Through their growing bond, Ilara sensed alarm. "What is it, Zara?" she asked, kneeling down to the creature's level. Images flashed through Ilara's mind. A group of armed figures, setting up some kind of perimeter. They wore the insignia of the Galactic Science Corps, but there was something off about them. "They found us," Lyra said, her empathic abilities picking up on Zora's message. "But how? We've been so careful." Ilara's mind raced. "It's not just about us anymore," she realized aloud. "Think about it. A rift in space-time appears, and then disappears just as suddenly. We might have contained the immediate crisis, but the effects must have been detected across the sector. They're not just looking for fugitives, they're investigating a cosmic event. And we're at the center of it," Lyra finished, her voice tinged with dread. Ilara nodded grimly. "We need a plan. We can't outrun them forever, and we can't risk them finding the sanctuary. Too many innocent lives would be at stake." For a moment, the trio stood in silence, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. Then, slowly, Zara's tentacles began to move in a pattern Ilara had come to recognize as the Voidborn's way of suggesting an idea. "You have a plan?" Ilara asked, hope kindling in her chest. The images that flowed into her mind were complex, abstract, concepts of space and time that her human brain struggled to fully comprehend. But the core idea came through clearly enough. "You want to create another rift," Ilara said, her eyes widening in realization. "A controlled one, to throw them off our trail." Lyra's skin paled. "Is that even possible?" "The risks are high," Ilara finished. "But so are the stakes." She looked at Zara, seeing the determination in that alien gaze. "You're sure about this?" Zara's eye curved in what Ilara now recognized as the void-born equivalent of a smile. The message was clear. Trust me. All right, Ilara said, her scientist's mind already racing with possibilities. But we do this smart. We need to understand exactly what happened back at the research facility and how Zara closed the rift. If we can replicate that on a smaller scale, we might be able to create a distraction without risking another full-blown space-time tear. For the next few hours, as the alien moons traversed the sky, the unlikely trio worked feverishly. Ilara used her portable data pad to analyze the readings she had managed to take during the original Rift event. Lyra acted as a bridge, her empathic abilities helping to translate Zara's cosmic knowledge into terms Ilara could understand. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of purple and green, they were ready. "Remember," Ilara said, her voice tense with anticipation, "we're not trying to create a full rift. Just a small disturbance, enough to register on their instruments and draw them away from the sanctuary." Lyra nodded, her skin flickering with nervous energy. "And if something goes wrong?" Ilara met her gaze steadily. "Then we deal with it, together." With a shared nod of determination, they put their plan into action. Zara moved to a small clearing, its crystalline plates beginning to glow with that now familiar otherworldly light. Ilara and Lyra stood back, ready to intervene if necessary. As Zora's power built, Ilara felt the air around them change. It became heavy, charged with potential. Small objects, leaves, pebbles, began to float, defying gravity. In the distance, she heard shouts of alarm from the Galactic Science Corps team. For a heart-stopping moment, Ilara feared they had miscalculated. The energy surrounding Zora was growing rapidly, far quicker than they had anticipated. She saw a tiny tear begin to form in the air before the Voidborn, a shimmering distortion that hurt her eyes to look at directly. "Zara," she called out, fighting the urge to rush forward. "That's enough." For a terrifying second, it seemed as though Zara hadn't heard her. The rift continued to grow, reality warping around its edges. Then, just as Ilara was about to throw caution to the wind and intervene physically, Zora's eye snapped towards her. With visible effort, the Voidborn began to rein in its power. The rift shuddered, its edges fluctuating wildly. Ilara held her breath, every muscle in her body tense. Beside her, Lyra's skin had gone almost translucent with stress. Then, with a sound like a giant sigh, the rift collapsed in on itself. There was a burst of light, a wave of force that knocked Ilara and Lyra off their feet. And then, silence. Ilara scrambled to her feet, her ears ringing. "Zara," she called out, fear clutching at her heart. "Zara, are you all right?" From the settling dust, a familiar shape emerged. Zara looked tired, its crystalline plates dimmed, but the Voidborn was intact. Ilara felt a wave of relief wash over her. "You did it," she breathed, a smile breaking across her face. It worked. Indeed, in the distance, they could hear the sounds of the Galactic Science Corps team mobilizing, moving away from their position towards where the disturbance had been detected. Lyra's voice was filled with awe. "I've never seen anything like that. The way you controlled it, Zara, it was incredible." Zara's tentacles curled in a gesture of modest acknowledgement, but Ilara could sense the Voidborn's pride and satisfaction. "We should move," Ilara said, her practical nature reasserting itself. "We've bought ourselves some time, but they'll realize it was a diversion eventually." As they resumed their journey towards the hidden sanctuary, Ilara felt a complex mix of emotions. Fear and uncertainty about their future, yes, but also an undeniable excitement. They had faced a challenge and overcome it, using a combination of Zara's cosmic power, Lyra's empathic abilities, and her own scientific knowledge. Whatever lay ahead, whatever dangers they might face, Ilara knew they would face them together. And with each challenge, each obstacle overcome, they were pushing the boundaries of known science, exploring the very fabric of the universe itself. As they crested a hill and the whispering cliffs came into view, Ilara felt a surge of hope. Their journey was far from over, but they had taken a crucial step. They had proven that they could work together, adapt, and overcome. The sanctuary awaited, and with it, perhaps, answers to the cosmic mysteries that had brought them together. Ilara squared her shoulders, a determined smile on her face. Whatever came next, she was ready to face it, with her unlikely but invaluable friends by her side. Turning the tide. The Whispering Cliffs lived up to their name. As Ilara, Lyra, and Zara approached, a soft, melodic hum filled the air. The rock face before them shimmered with an opalescent sheen, patterns of light dancing across its surface in hypnotic waves. "It's beautiful," Ilara breathed, her scientist's mind already racing with theories about the geological composition that could create such an effect. Lyra nodded, her iridescent skin reflecting the cliff's glow. "The entrance to the sanctuary is here, hidden by illusions and energy fields. Only those who know the secret can find it." As if on cue, Zara moved forward, its tentacles reaching out to touch the shimmering rock face. The moment of contact sent a ripple through the air, and suddenly, a doorway materialized before them. "Well done, Zara," Ilara said, a proud smile on her face. The Voidborn's eye curved in response, a gesture Ilara had come to recognize as pleasure. They stepped through the doorway, and into a world Ilara could scarcely have imagined. The sanctuary was a vast cavern, its ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Bioluminescent plants cast a soft, ever-changing glow over the scene. Structures of varying architectural styles were built into the cavern walls and dotted the floor, creating a patchwork city of diverse alien cultures. And the inhabitants, Ilara's breath caught in her throat. Creatures of every conceivable shape and size moved about. Some she recognized from her xenobiology studies, others completely unknown to her. This was a haven for the galaxy's outcasts and misfits, a place where differences were celebrated rather than feared. As they made their way deeper into the sanctuary, whispers and stares followed them. Ilara realized that even in this place of diversity, their group stood out. A human, a Lumina, and a Voidborn, working together. They were met by a delegation of sanctuary leaders, a council as diverse as the population they represented. At their head was a being Ilara could only describe as a living nebula, its body a swirling mass of gases and stardust. "Welcome," the nebula being said, its voice resonating in Ilara's mind rather than her ears. "I am Nexus, custodian of this sanctuary. We've been expecting you." Ilara exchanged surprised glances with Lyra. "You have?" she asked. Nexus's form shimmered in what might have been amusement. Word travels fast in the cosmic currents. A human scientist, a Lumina empath, and a Voidborn, working together to close a rift in space-time. Such news does not go unnoticed. Before Ilara could respond, alarms began to blare throughout the cavern. Screens materialized in the air, showing external views of the Whispering Cliffs. A massive fleet of galactic science core ships was descending from the sky. "They followed us," Lyra gasped, her skin paling with fear. Nexus's form darkened. "No," the being said, its mental voice grim. "I'm afraid the situation is far more serious than that. Observe." The screens shifted, showing views from across the sector. Everywhere, rifts were opening. Tears in the fabric of space-time like the one Zora had closed at the research facility, but on a much larger scale. "The disturbance you created has had unforeseen consequences," Nexus explained. "It has weakened the barriers between dimensions. If these rifts are not closed, they will continue to grow, eventually tearing this sector of the galaxy apart." Ilara felt the weight of countless lives settling on her shoulders. "This is our fault," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have to fix it." Nexus's form swirled in agreement. "Indeed, but you will not face this challenge alone. The sanctuary was built for moments like this, when the outcasts and misfits of the galaxy must stand together against a common threat." As if on cue, the diverse inhabitants of the sanctuary began to gather around them. Ilara saw determination in every alien face, a shared resolve to protect their home and the galaxy beyond. "We need a plan," Ilara said, her scientific mind already racing. Zara closed one rift. "But this is on a completely different scale." Lyra's eyes widened in realization. "But what if it doesn't have to be? What if we could use the sanctuary's hidden network to amplify Zora's power, to close all the rifts simultaneously?" Nexus's form brightened. An ingenious suggestion. The sanctuary's systems were designed to channel and amplify energy. With some modifications, we might be able to create a cosmic resonance chamber. For the next few hours, the sanctuary was a hive of activity. Ilara worked with the sanctuary scientists, her human perspective offering fresh insights into the problem. Lyra coordinated with the empaths, creating a psychic network to monitor the rifts. And Zara, at the center of it all, prepared to channel more power than ever before. As they worked, the Galactic Science Corps fleet drew ever closer. But the sanctuary's defenses held firm, hidden by layers of technology and natural camouflage. Finally, as the largest rift loomed dangerously close to the sanctuary itself, they were ready. "Remember," Ilara said, her voice tense but steady, "we're not fighting against the rifts. We're working with the fabric of space-time, guiding it back into harmony." Zara's eye met hers, a universe of understanding passing between them. Then, with a collective breath, they began. The sanctuary's hidden systems hummed to life, channeling energy to Zora. The Voidborn's crystalline plates began to glow, brighter and brighter, until Ilara had to shield her eyes. She felt the air around them change, becoming heavy with potential. Through it all, Lyra's voice guided them, the luminous empathic abilities translating Zora's cosmic awareness into actionable information. "The rifts are responding," she called out. "Keep going." Ilara watched in awe as, one by one, the rifts on the screens began to shrink. It was working. But then, just as victory seemed within reach, something went wrong. The largest rift, the one nearest the sanctuary, began to pulse erratically. Ilara felt a surge of panic. If that rift destabilized completely, it could tear the entire planet apart. Without hesitation, Ilara rushed to Zora's side. "Together," she said, placing her hand on the Voidborn's crystalline surface. She didn't know if it would make a difference, but she knew she had to try. The moment they touched, Ilara's world exploded into cosmic awareness. She saw the rifts not as tears, but as wounds in the living fabric of the universe, and suddenly she understood. "It's not about force," she called out, her voice ringing with certainty. "It's about healing. Zara, show them, show everyone, what you showed me." Through their connection, Zara broadcasted the vision to everyone in the sanctuary, and as one, they understood. The psychic network Lyra had established became a conduit for collective will, billions of minds across the sanctuary focusing on a single purpose: healing the cosmic wounds. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. The rifts began to close rapidly, reality knitting itself back together. The erratic pulsing of the largest rift smoothed out, its edges drawing inward. With a final, soundless flash of light, the last rift sealed itself. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then, a cheer went up that seemed to shake the very foundations of the sanctuary. As the celebration erupted around them, Ilara found herself embracing Lyra and Zara, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved not just themselves, not just the sanctuary, but the entire sector. But as the initial euphoria faded, Ilara realized their challenges were far from over. The Galactic Science Corps fleet still loomed outside, and the consequences of their actions would ripple across the galaxy. Yet, looking at her unlikely companions, Lyra, her iridescent skin glowing with joy, and Zara, its single eye curved in that familiar smile, Ilara felt ready to face whatever came next. They had turned the tide against cosmic destruction. Surely they could navigate the currents of galactic politics. As Nexus approached, its nebulous form shimmering with approval, Ilara squared her shoulders. The next chapter of their adventure was about to begin, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead them. A new understanding. The days following the closure of the rifts were a whirlwind of activity. The sanctuary, once hidden, now stood revealed to the galaxy at large. The Galactic Science Corps fleet, initially poised for conflict, had witnessed the extraordinary events unfold and now hovered uncertainly, awaiting orders from their superiors. Ilara, Lyra, and Zara found themselves at the center of intense scrutiny and debate. Nexus, recognizing the gravity of the situation, had convened an emergency council meeting, inviting representatives from the Galactic Science Corps to attend. The Grand Council chamber of the sanctuary was abuzz with tension and excitement. Beings from across the galaxy filled the tiered seating, their diverse forms a testament to the sanctuary's inclusive nature. At the center, Ilara, Lyra, and Zara stood before a panel of judges, including Nexus and high-ranking officials from the Galactic Science Corps. Admiral Jen, a stern-faced Arcturian with gleaming scales, leaned forward. "Dr. Vance, you stand accused of theft of galactic property, harboring a potentially dangerous alien life form, and reckless endangerment of an entire sector. How do you plead?" Ilara straightened her shoulders, meeting the Admiral's gaze steadily. "With all due respect, Admiral, those charges fail to consider the full context of our actions. We didn't steal Zora. We protected a sentient being from exploitation. We didn't endanger the sector. We saved it from a cosmic threat that your own scientists failed to anticipate or address." A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Lyra stepped forward, her iridescent skin shimmering with determination. "If I may, honored council," she said, her melodious voice carrying clearly through the chamber. What happened here was not just about closing rifts in spacetime. It was about closing rifts between species, between ways of thinking. Human ingenuity, Lumina empathy, and void-born cosmic power, working in harmony with the diverse skills of the sanctuary's inhabitants. That is what saved us all. Zara, silent but ever expressive, extended a tentacle towards the center of the chamber. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a holographic representation of the galaxy appeared, showing the network of rifts they had closed and the potential devastation that had been averted. Gasps of awe echoed through the chamber. Even Admiral Jen's stern expression softened slightly. Nexus's nebulous form swirled thoughtfully. "What we have witnessed here is unprecedented. It challenges our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. Perhaps it is time for a new approach." Admiral Jen frowned. "What are you suggesting?" "A joint initiative," Ilara said, inspiration striking her. "A collaboration between the Galactic Science Corps and the Sanctuary. We've proven that diversity isn't just about coexistence. It's about synergy. Imagine what we could achieve if we combined the Corps' resources with the Sanctuary's unique perspective and abilities." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. After hours of intense debate and negotiation, a decision was reached. The Sanctuary would no longer hide in the shadows, but would become a recognized center for cosmic research and interspecies cooperation. Ilara, Lyra, and Zara would lead a new division, focused on understanding and protecting the fabric of spacetime itself. As the council adjourned and the chamber began to empty, Ilara found a quiet moment with her companions. Lyra's skin glowed with joy, while Zara's eye curved in its familiar smile. "We did it. Elara breathed, still hardly able to believe it. We actually did it. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. We've opened a door to a new era of understanding. There will be challenges ahead, but we'll face them together. Zera's tentacles moved in a pattern that Elara now recognized as excitement. Through their bond, she sensed the Voidborn's eagerness to explore this new frontier of knowledge and cooperation. As they stood there, overlooking the vast cavern of the sanctuary, now bustling with a mix of longtime inhabitants and newly arrived scientists, Elara felt a profound sense of purpose. They had not just saved the galaxy, they had changed it, opening minds and hearts to new possibilities. You know, Elara said, a smile playing on her lips, when I first came to Zephyria, I thought I was embarking on a simple xenobiology assignment. I never imagined that you'd end up on a cosmic adventure with an empath and a Voidborn. Lyra finished, her melodious laugh echoing through the chamber. Elara chuckled. Exactly, but I wouldn't change it for anything. As the three of them stood there, united by their shared experiences and the bonds they had forged, Elara knew that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and they had only scratched the surface of its mysteries. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever new cosmic phenomena they might encounter, Elara was certain of one thing. With human ingenuity, Lumina